Or you said like couches and beds all over. Like, is someone dancing, someone's having a drink, and someone's just fucking next to them?
Yeah, like sometimes like at the bar, like people will fuck at the bar standing right in front of me, like staring at me.
That's interesting. Welcome back to Other People's Lives. I'm Joe Santagato.
I'm Greg Dybec.
For anyone that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com. Just send us your story and we'll get back to you.
Today, we're going to peer into a business that you probably wouldn't know existed unless you were looking for it. So we had a woman reach out, and she said that she works at a secret sex club in New York City. So we're going to find out what goes on behind those doors. But we've got the guest on, so thanks so much for being on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so what is a secret sex club? Because we live in New York City. I walk down the street all the time. Never seen a sex club, I don't think.
Yeah, you wouldn't know. It's funny because people always ask like where the club is that I work at. I've worked at a couple of them, but the one I mainly work at, like 90% of the time, is in Midtown, right by Madison Square Park. So like in a popular area.
Wow. So there's just like a secret door you got to knock on, and then all of a sudden you're in a sex club.
It's funny because it's like an unmarked door, like in a high rise, like with, office buildings and stuff. But I guess when it's like time to start the party, they put out this placard, like by the buzzer where you would buzz in, that has the actual like address, like numbers on it. So people can like easily identify, because it is just a door that you would never think twice about.
Okay.
And what is a sex club? Like, what is this like? There's music and dancing and fucking?
There's music and dancing. So sometimes it's kind of different. Like I'm like in the lifestyle, I guess you could say. So I frequented clubs before I actually started working at one. So the club that I work at, they're more like almost like a regular club that you would go to. There's music, people will dance. It's multiple floors, so it's like 3 floors, and then there's a bunch of couches and beds everywhere where people fuck. And yeah, so the club that I work at is kind of more, they identify as like a swingers club, but I don't know, it's not really a swingers club in my opinion. It's more because they allow single people to come too. So there are some clubs that are couples only. There are some clubs that don't allow single men, only single women, and then couples, or you have to have reference. So my club specifically, it's one of the only clubs I think in New York City that actually allows single men to come with no reference, and they can just pay at the door and come. So basically anyone can go to the club that I work at.
And what do you do at the club?
Bartend, which is like the loosest definition of bartending possible. Like I had no bartending experience prior to that. And the club that I work at also is BYOB. So there's no actual bartending going on. We just provide like mixers, and people bring their own alcohol, like a bottle of whatever. I keep it behind the counter, and then whenever they want a drink, I basically pour it in a cup for them. It's very
Okay.
yeah.
It sounds like you're just there observing.
Yeah, and also I like serve as eye candy. Like I have to dress up as, sexy, right? Like I have to wear a little hoe outfit. I have to be topless for part of the night. So that is like kind of part of the allure, is like
okay.
You have this hot bartender with
so not your typical
titties.
bartender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I love stuff like this. Like, I just love the idea. I love sex clubs. What's the address? No, I just love the idea that like this really happens. Like this is the stuff you see on movies sometimes. Like there's a secret door and you have to get the address from someone that knows, and then like knock 3 times, and people are walking past and have no idea what's there. But like this is really here, probably all over the city, probably all over the world.
Over. And like honestly pretty popular. Like I've been to a bunch of different clubs, like, and they're all in places that I just would never think to go. Like, the one I work at, it's like in the middle of Midtown. And then I've been to one that's like right by Penn Station. Another one that's like right off like the Wall Street, like J train, basically. So they're kind of everywhere.
Is there a lot of sex going down at this place, or is it like, for the most part, people are coming and having a good time, and some people are topless or whatever, but like, or is it mostly people are up there and they're fucking?
So it depends. So like that's where it gets a little dicey, and that's where like the club I work at, I think it gets a bad rap in the community because they do allow single men. So, you know, I guess like at other clubs I've been to that are like couples only or whatever, they'll, you know, people just get straight to it. You know, like even at the club I worked at, like we have many couples who come in and basically just like use it as their own like short-term place to like have sex like after dinner or something, you know, like they'll just like, hey, come in, do it and leave like 30 minutes flat, you know. But then some people come in
private though? Like I'm just trying to paint this picture in my mind. Or you said like couches and beds all over. Like is someone dancing, someone's having a drink, and someone's just fucking next to them?
Yeah, like sometimes like at the bar, like people will fuck at the bar standing right in front of me, like staring at me. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And like a lot of guys will come and like jerk off and like stand right next to me and like jerk off, right? So then it's like, okay, if you're gonna stand there and jerk off, like you better put some money in my tip jar at the very least, you know?
So it's a free for all. Like you can just do whatever you want, wherever you want.
Yeah. So I feel like I guess I can only speak to the club that I work at, but our club only has like all open rooms. So some of the clubs that I've been to, they'll have like all open rooms, but then they'll have a couple of private rooms where you can like close a door, and it's basically like a weird cubicle that they threw a bed in, but like you could have a little bit of privacy, but you're still like obviously in a room with other people, right? But then the club I work at, they're pretty big on like no one's allowed to be out of sight, you know? So there's no like closed door rooms. Like everything's open. It's just kind of divided by like curtains. So imagine like a big room on like a floor of like an apartment or whatever, but instead of walls, everything's just kind of divided by like curtains. So it's easy to like peek around a curtain and like look at things. And obviously they keep it pretty dark because no one wants a like very lit up space when they're like trying to have sex, you know? And then we have rooms that are also like intentionally very, very dark, like almost like pitch black. So then people can have like that feeling of privacy. But yeah, they're like pretty strict about like, they don't even let people go like 2 people in the bathroom at a time. And there's like showers and stuff too, but they're like pretty strict at the club that I work at about that.
Why are they so strict about that?
So no one gets like assaulted or anything.
Yeah.
Right? Like
yeah,
just make sure it's all consensual and good.
Totally.
Which means you're being watched the whole time you're having sex, basically.
Yeah, it's the same reason why they would like don't let you just walk around with a bottle in the club, right? Like you have to bring it to the bar. Like when they check in downstairs and like check in a bottle, they like have to turn in their bag. Like they're not allowed to walk around with a bag of stuff because there could be whatever in the bag, right? They have to check it into a locker. And then the security person at the front will like radio me like, hey, this person coming up the stairs has a bottle or whatever. So then they'll give it to me and I'll hold on to it because there will be guys sometimes who like come and they like want to share their drink with every single girl in the hopes that, you know, like, and we just don't even want to go there. So I'm like, and also guys who will just like, and girls who will just get really drunk and I have to be like, no, you can't have any more. Like you can drink water, and they'll get pissed and they'll like throw a fit. And I'm like, I mean, you can leave, you know? So
this is like, I guess what you're saying, we've talked to swingers in the past and like definitely understand that community of like swinger meetups and stuff. Like the number one rule is always like no single guys. Like that's where this could get weird and dangerous. So come with your couples, come with your people. You could swap, you could do whatever, but like you have to come with someone. So the fact this club lets single guys, that does seem a little scary, because this whole thing just seems like every guy's like fantasy, right? Like every guy who's like, we're going to go out tonight, we're going to go to the club, we're going to get drunk, and like I'm going to meet a girl and we're just going to start having sex, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But that's like what this is.
Yeah. Sometimes whole groups of like bros, like they'll be in town for like a conference, like a company conference, and they'll come to the club together to have sex with people. And I'm like, all right, go off. I guess.
Now, is this like guaranteed, or do a lot of guys show up and like they're still striking out even at a sex club?
Oh, all the time. And so that's like also where I haven't experienced that at other places, but at the working there I have, because basically like, you know, some nights it's very dependent also on the night. Like sometimes it's only dudes in the building the entire night because it's raining outside, you know, like people don't want to leave their houses when it's like freezing in the winter, you know? And so then it'll be a bunch of mad dudes who just paid like $200 to get in the door to have nothing happen. And I'm just standing behind the bar, like topless. So then they like latch on to me, or like they'll be really kind of like lurking over if like one girl shows up or like one couple. The amount of times, like at least once a night, probably have either like a couple or like a single girl who will be like, this guy keeps following me around. Can you like tell him to leave me alone? So then I have to like do a little bit of security and be like, hey, you got to get the fuck away, you know?
Is there no like security there?
Oh, no, there's security. There's like beefed up security. So it's like, I'll deal with stuff that I see and stuff with girls, you know, I think, because I usually am the only girl there who's like working on staff, you know? So, and I have no problem. I think working there, before working there, I think I was a little more timid and shy, but definitely had to learn how to be like, no, get away. She doesn't want to fucking talk to you. You're ugly. Go away, you know? But if they start getting aggressive or anything, like, yeah. And the owner of the club, he's there almost every night. And when he's not there, and when he even is there, he just sits in the office and he watches the cameras, because we have cameras all throughout the club. Mm-hmm. So he'll sit and watch the cameras all night. So he's like, and he's like ex-military, so he's like a hawk. He will see something happening in a little corner of the club. Like, another issue is, aside from like the single guys, are like couples fighting. So it's like, we don't want that. It just brings down the whole thing. And also, like, God forbid they get into a fight at the club, and it's just like, you know, a lot. And he'll see it and he'll page me and be like, go over there and see what's happening, you know, keep an eye on that. So
I love that you're doing all of this topless too, kicking people out, like talking.
Yeah, you get pretty used to it. I mean, I was doing, I think I mentioned this to your producer, but I was doing porn at the time. That's actually how I got the job. So I was unfazed by it, but yeah, it definitely like gets a little old.
With that being said, are you allowed to do anything with customers, or is that just like strictly forbidden?
No, yeah, we're definitely allowed. Like all the security guys like get their dick sucked like every shift basically. So, but the caveat, I like
for money, or it just happens?
No. Just like, well, I feel like we have these like kind of beefed up, like cute security guards. So all the women who come in are like, oh, the security, you know, I think they have that like security halo effect or something. But then me, I feel like a lot of couples, a lot of the regulars, they really like me. But I only ever hooked up with someone once for, well, one reason. We only get 15 minutes to do it. So we get one 15-minute break if we want to hook up with someone.
There's hookup breaks at this place.
This is like the opposite of like an HR department at any job. This is wild.
You get 15 minutes, but that's it.
Yeah, because my boss will be like, "Oh, if you want to hook up with someone, just have someone have one of the security guys stand behind the bar real quick, and you can do your thing. But you only get 15 minutes." And for me, 15 minutes like doesn't even start the party. So I'm like,
Same.
this doesn't do anything for me. So like, why bother? And then two, I feel like I was working there a lot. Like for probably like an entire year, I worked like 3 days out of the week, sometimes doubles because they have a day party some days and a night party. So I'm seeing like the same kind of regulars all the time. And it's like a fine line because they want to sleep with you. And I always would just tell them like, no, I don't sleep with people from the club. And it's kind of like just my catch-all to like get out of any of those situations. And then if I do actually see someone I want to sleep with, I just like slip them my number and like meet up with them later,
Okay.
But then like the regulars, like there was one time where I like let some guy like kiss me or whatever. And then like three of the people who are always really nice, but they're like, you'll kiss that guy, but you won't fuck me or whatever. And so then it's like this weird dynamic where like, they're like, well, you did it to him. Why not me? And I'm like, oh no, I just have to make this like a blanket rule. Like
Jeez.
none of you get anything.
How long you been working there?
Over 2 years now, maybe even closer to 3 now that I'm thinking about it, but definitely 2 years. Yeah, because I started during the pandemic, like maybe not peak pandemic, but once things started opening back up.
Okay. You mentioned $200 before. So what's like average cost to go out to a place like this?
I think it depends. Like I've been to some clubs where it's really, really cheap. But like, maybe like, I mean, I don't know. For a woman, I guess it's you usually get in for free. Single woman. Couples, I think at our club it's like $80. And then guys, it's like anywhere from like 100 to 120. And then you have to pay for like the yearly membership fee on top of that. So
Oh, it's a membership fee.
right. Yeah. It's like basically I think it's like they somehow, I don't know if it's like a money grab thing but a lot of these clubs, they'll like charge you a yearly fee of some sort. And I don't know if that like legitimizes it as like some sort of like a private club, because it is like kind of one of those, like, it's not legal, but they are kind of everywhere,
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, there's no way this is legal. Like, you can't just have sex clubs.
Definitely not.
Maybe that's how the yearly thing. That's a good point. That they like there must be some sort of loophole. Like if you're paying for like a social club or whatever the fuck, I don't know.
Right. So I know that the club that I work at specifically, one of the owners, he owns a porn company, like a small boutique porn company, which is how I met him. And he uses the space during the day for like photo shoots and video shoots. So I know that they leased the building that we were in under the guise of a photography studio, right? So like when people come willy-nilly, like every once in a while we'll have like a run-in. It's never with the police coming, but it'll be like a city inspector will come, like the fire department needs to do something in the building, right? And it's like when you walk in, it's very clearly a sex club because there's all these like signs with rules on them, and there's like all of these like painted photos of like vaginas and dicks, and it's like, this is obviously a sex, and there's beds everywhere, So I guess
they have to be paid off or something. There's got to just be some sort of arrangement, right?
Well, it happened one time during my shift, and I was working a day shift actually, and there were customers in the club, which was kind of scary. So I was like, they kept buzzing, they kept banging on the door to get in, and my manager just came up and was like, "Here, put your clothes on. Go sit downstairs, and if anyone asks you anything, just say you're here hanging out." And I was like, okay. So I just like put my clothes on and I'm like sitting there talking to the customers, like, okay, I guess we'll just figure this out, like, and they just would not leave these like city inspectors, right? So then eventually they left like 2 hours later, and we basically closed the club for like 2 weeks to like let it die off. Or I don't know what they did, if they like let them come in after they like rearranged some things inside or like threw some beds in a closet somewhere. But then, yeah, 2 weeks, we're back up and running, full business.
Interesting. And also, you mentioned like single guys can show up. Do a lot of single women show up to the club?
I wouldn't say a lot, no. But there are, yeah. There are a few women that show up. They're usually like weirdly like they're either young, which is kind of surprising because our demographic isn't necessarily young. It's not older, but like I feel like a lot of the younger women who come are like 20, 21. Like
Wow.
you could just go to a and like they'll be hot. And I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But like go off, I guess, whatever. And or there'll be, I think a few of them are prostitutes who are like looking for Johns, which we do kind of like frown upon a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to ask, not to get too dark, but a place like this, I would assume you have to be really cautious about that, or like human trafficking or anyone that's underage. Like, is that something that you guys are on top of and look out for?
Yeah, totally. Like IDs and stuff, like we haven't had any issues with anyone underage. The only thing is like obviously if they're under the age of 21, like our owner, like they're marked like all over their arms with X's so they cannot drink alcohol given to them by anyone or anything. But yeah, I feel like we don't probably see too much like not really like human trafficking, because it is like an intimate club. Like it would be hard for that to happen unless like it's pretty clear if that's happening. Like even when the prostitutes come in, which love my fellow prostitutes, but also like you just can't do that at our place of business, because it just is like keeps it, and it makes it more liable. Like it's already not a legitimate place. Shouldn't be breaking more laws by doing that here, and we've definitely banned girls from the club for like clearly going there to like turn tricks or whatever. But usually it's not a big deal. They'll just be like, okay, bye, and then they'll just leave and not ever come back.
How many people are usually in there on a given night?
It totally depends. Like on the weekends during like the summer, it's pretty busy. You probably see like 30, 40 people. But then like I know like the holidays will turn people out. Like I went for New Year's. Well, I worked New Year's last year, and there was a ton of people. Like the building was like full. There's probably like 100, 200 people. And it's 3 floors, but it's not a huge space, so it was like, and it was like hot inside. Like it was bumping for sure.
Do you just see people from all walks of life? Is there a kind of typical customer that you see?
Sort of. So there's a lot of, definitely all walks of life. I mean, a lot of couples, I would say it's probably like 50% couples who are just starting out. They don't know. They've never done this before. There's maybe like a 10% of people who are like, I'm just curious. I just came to look. I don't want to do anything, And then there's another like 10% of guys who just come to like jerk off or whatever.
Is this place just covered in cum, by the way?
Yeah, it's pretty gross, honestly. We have a porter, and he basically like runs around after people fucking and like immediately like removes the sheets from the bed, puts a new sheet on, cleans up condoms, mops the floor. So
yeah, that's good to hear. Because I didn't even think about that. Just sanitary.
Yeah, just like dudes jerking off. You're like, the guy's standing at the bar jerking off, and I'm like, well, he must be coming all over the ground.
Yeah.
Dude.
I'm just picturing you working and there's like a trail of like 4 dudes just like jerking off like everywhere you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is like I'm kind of stuck behind this pretty small bar. Like the bar is only like a 1-person size bar. It's not like a long bar like at a pub or whatever. It's like a little cubicle. So I don't have anywhere to kind of escape to a lot of times. So if they're standing there jerking off, I just tell them that they need to give me money if they're going to stand there and do that, honestly.
That's the least they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, because then sometimes they'll be like, oh, can I touch your boobs? You know, and I'm like, yeah, sure, if you give me money.
Yeah, okay.
And then sometimes they'll put a couple of like pennies in there, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Come on.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a lot of married men too?
Yeah. There's a lot of married men.
I'm
for
sure. Yeah.
A lot of cops.
Oh, okay.
Many cops. It's kind of surprising because you would think, I mean, whatever, you know, cops in New York, I don't respect them, but yeah, because I'm like, what is going on here? You know, and even the club, like, it's funny because they'll let people in knowing that they're cops, and I'm like, I would think that you wouldn't want them in here, but the owner's like, they provide so much business because they tell their other cop friends they can come here and like have a good time.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, all right.
Well, it's quite interesting, honestly.
This really is. Are there any, memorable moments, stories, anything like funny or crazy that sticks out in your mind? Because I'm sure you've seen some wild things there.
Yeah. A lot. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've had all kinds of stuff. Some like funny, some sad. I feel like this one guy, he paid me like $100 to wrestle him. And he only had one hand, which is like kind of fucked up. But I was like, yeah. And he was like, I could beat you even though I have a nub. And I was like, bitch, I'm about to whoop your ass. And yeah, he like gave me the $100 and we wrestled. And
Did you win?
Like, okay. I did win. Yeah.
Damn.
Well,
Did you win?
I was at an extra hand advantage. So, and then I trained jujitsu. So then I was like, and he was like, I was a high school wrestler. And I was like, I'm about to murk you. But then, yeah, other things. I mean, it's mostly just kind of like funny little things. I personally, it's funny because if people are really like going at it and like fucking like making a spectacle of having sex, kind of me and all of the employees, you'll see us like start to huddle around and we'll be like, almost like, he's doing a good job, or
like a dance circle at a wedding or something. Everyone just like,
yeah.
Okay.
Because a lot of people, I will say, to like speak to the atmosphere, it's sometimes if there's a lot of people who aren't experienced or don't feel comfortable, it's their first time, which is often, it's kind of like an 8th grade dance. Everyone's sitting around and kind of like doing stuff, but not really going for it, like they're just like sitting around. And it's like, even one of the owners of the club, he always comes in with his girlfriend. If it's like that and there's a ton of people in the club, but they're all just like kind of standing up against the wall doing nothing, him and his girlfriend will sometimes just go to the middle of the room and like do stuff just to get it started. Because it's like one of those things, like someone's got to start dancing and then everyone starts dancing,
That is wild. Well,
yeah.
We are, very appreciative that you would come on the show and tell us about this thing that exists. I'm sure it exists by the thousands in this city, but not many people know about it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. If you guys ever want to go, I sent your producer the link to the club, so.
Well, yeah, we're just going to get one drink, though. That's it.
Yeah, just one drink.
We'll tip you.
Tip the bartender. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, this is super interesting. Thanks for all the details and giving us this insight into this world. And it seems like you've got it covered and you know how to handle yourself, but, stay safe out there. It sounds a little creepy sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. But appreciate it. Yeah, it's good.
All right. Well, have a good one. And yeah, we'll see you later tonight. We're going to go.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
That sounds intense. I don't know about that.
I don't think I'd like it there.
Well, mostly because of the cum, I would say.
Yeah. That is just, yeah, that's just like a fantasy world, but it's, I don't know. It seems like it's got a balance of like fun and nice, but it also just seems like seedy and weird. And I just don't want to be anywhere where like people are jerking off next to me.
Yeah, the jerking off thing is a toughie.
Yeah. Especially it seems like that's a constant there.
Yeah.
And like, imagine walking into that place. It's like a sausage fest and all dudes.
And they're just beating their dicks.
Yeah. Imagine like trying to like go to a bar. You know like how hard it is to like get a drink in New York sometimes.
Yeah,
You're just like reaching over a couple like
Bud
having
Light.
sex. This dude's jerking off. Yeah.
Yeah, just Bud Light, just Bud Light. This guy's like hammering his dick next to me, and I'm like, you point that somewhere else, sir. Thank you so much. I can only imagine. Yeah, no, interesting place. Obviously, these places exist, and they exist, you know, all over. You've heard murmurs and rumors about these places. I don't know that I would enjoy it that much. I don't really have the interest, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It sounds like it would backfire. Like I could picture being drunk, like, let's go just to see what it looks like.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you're there and then you just like immediately sober up because
Yeah,
you're
you're
like, this is just too intense.
Yeah, I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't have come here.
But that's cool for all the people that go, I guess. It is real. It's happening. I'm sure there's all sorts of different people, like just, you know, successful people, married people, like who knows?
Who knows?
Just doing their thing.
Bradley Cooper's in there. We don't know.
Yeah. The mayor, I'm sure the mayor goes.
The mayor goes. Yeah. But yeah, for anyone out there that would like to be a guest on our show, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our email is oplpodcast@gmail.com. Just send us your story and we'll get back to you.
Follow us on TikTok, Instagram at OPL Podcast. Head over to patreon.com/OPL show. And that is all for this week.
See you guys next time.